Welcome back to On the Same Team. This is a show where we explore what it takes to build a championship culture, whether it's in business, entrepreneurship, or in your personal lives. Today's guests bring a unique perspective from the world of commercial real estate and entrepreneurship, where strategy, relationships, and financial insight are essential to long-term success. In an industry where every decision matters, helping business owners navigate complex deals and investments can make all the difference. KJ Winger works closely with business owners, landlords, and investors, helping them navigate leasing versus buying, property valuation, and key financial metrics like cap rate, IRR, and NOI. As a CCIM, often referred to as the PhD of commercial real estate, she brings a high level expertise in helping clients make confident, informed decisions. Alongside her business partner, Jennifer Rose Bass, KJ focuses exclusively on commercial real estate deals across Siouxland, working on projects ranging from multi-unit developments to downtown office and retail spaces. For commercial real estate strategy, entrepreneurship, KJ brings value and expertise from inside the business world. Jennifer, I don't have as extensive as a bio for you. So maybe we're going to talk to you for like 90% of it because I already talked about KJ for like 90% of the intro. But
Yeah,
I'm excited to have, both you, Jennifer, and you, KJ, on the show. Thanks for joining me. Jennifer, I know that you are also a CCIM member, correct?
that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And essentially, like you guys are um, half of your team, right? You guys have 4 people on your team. And are you the two commercial real estate agents and the other two are residential, or how does you guys' team actually function?
Yes. So we are two of the four members of Property Pros Group, and Property Pros Group is a group within Sector 21, and the residential agents are Christine Stoltz and Yvette Torres, and then they focus exclusively on residential. And then Jennifer and I are the commercial agents and focus exclusively on commercial.
So how did you two get into commercial real estate? I mean, that's pretty much how I start every podcast. I love seeing like the route to this is how I got to where I wanted to be. This is, like my motivation for being here. This is what I was trying to achieve when I made, the jump into it, whether it be like, your first job or your last job. I love that path because, you know, I came from a world of coaching college sports, and that's kind of where my head's at. Like, how do we get people to finding the position and the career they want in life. And so I think that's just super important to just kind of paint a picture of like how you guys got to where you're at.
Sure. So I went to high school in South Sioux City, Nebraska, and then I left for college and said I'm never coming back to Siouxland. Siouxland had nothing to offer me. Went to college at the University of Nebraska, got my master's at Creighton, stayed in Omaha for 7 years, including my time at Creighton, and then came back for Christmas break and fell in love with an old high school classmate, and we started dating. And he has a family business here. My parents are still here, so it just made sense if we were going to take that next step that I moved back to Siouxland because he again had a family business here. And I told him I wouldn't move back unless I got an equal or better paying job than what I had in Omaha. I was working for Precision Industries, which is like a Granger. So I was selling tools. I was kind of a program director, if you will. Union Pacific was one of my big accounts, Tyson. And then I ended up getting a job at Wells Enterprises and worked there for 7 years in consumer packaged goods. Made it all the way to becoming a marketing manager before our daughter Addie was born in 2011, at the very end of 2011. And then, as you know, Wells has gone through lots of changes. I was part of a large layover that happened in 2012. It ended up being a blessing in disguise because it led me to real estate. I got a phone call from Kyle Kelly shortly after I got laid off that said, have you ever thought about real estate? And I said, Kyle, I do not want to sell houses. That sounds extremely unattractive to me. I don't think I could work with a wife who couldn't get over curtains in a house or didn't like the floor color, things like that. That's just not my, that's just not how I operate. That's not how my brain works. And he said, I was not thinking about you for residential. I want you for commercial. And I tell people this every day that a light bulb just went off in my head. I didn't know you could specialize or that you should specialize, in all honesty. So I interviewed brokerages around town just to make sure that Century 21 was the best fit for me, and it was. Um, Joined Century 21 and realized quite quickly that the commercial real estate world was not only male dominated, but at least at that time it was, but also very hard to get into and very hard to ramp up your business. When you join the real estate world, it's pretty common you can sell a house in a few months of getting your real estate license. It is not like that in commercial at all. Sometimes our deals take over 2 years to come to fruition. And so I realized very quickly that if I wanted to make it in commercial real estate, I needed to partner with someone who had some experience and had a Rolodex of clients that could honestly start cash flowing my business. And that was around the same time that Rich LeGrand was sick with cancer, and LeGrand and Company was closing. And Arlene Curry and Ellen Kaplan, who were the two primary females in the real estate market at that time, came over to Century 21. And Arlene and I just hit it off, and we became a team. Um, for 3 to 4, 3.5 years, we were a team. We did really well. And then she kind of transitioned to the next step in her life. But the team atmosphere really worked well for me. I liked it because obviously I'm not only a professional, I'm a mother, I am a wife, I'm a daughter. All of those things take time away from work. And we all know that if we don't get vacations, our work suffers. We need those breaks. But in real estate, you don't have anybody to cover your business. So I liked the team atmosphere from that perspective. I liked the team atmosphere from a mentoring perspective. And I think it really benefits the clients to have multiple people looking at their listings and thinking things through and talking. And then one day I'm in the Target parking lot and I get a phone call from KJ. And most of you guys know her from Photography by KJ, she had a very successful photography business. She said, "How do you like real estate?" And I said, "It is so funny you should ask that because I am looking for a new partner." And I'll let KJ kind of talk about her entrance into the business.
What what was your major like at Nebraska?
I majored in marketing and management information systems, which is like I call it the people part of computers. So it's not data coding, but it's more understanding computers and how they can help you. And then I got my master's in business, but an emphasis in marketing. So it does tie very nicely into real estate. But I didn't know that this would be the path I would take. Yeah, but it has been a blessing because it's a career that you need to focus on and you need to treat it like a real-time job, a real full-time job. But it does allow you the flexibility to take care of your family, to do the things that you need to do. And it's a different day every day, which is really what I like about it too. And with the way that the world works, you know this too, you can work pretty much from anywhere. I mean, even when we're on vacation, we're writing offers, or taking phone calls, and things like that. So it works well for our family life, at least.
There's one last question for you. Then we'll get into KJ's journey. But what, like, your first job was essentially a sales job, kind of the way or is that accurate? Or when you're
It
working
was
for
more
Precision Systems, what were you kind of doing for
right.
them?
I wasn't selling tools. It was more, we had national accounts. So I was a national account manager is basically what I was. But I had an internship at Precision Industries in marketing while I was going to school, getting my master's. So I was in their marketing department, but then I got promoted into national accounts. So I made sure that, so in that world, when you have a large account like that, they have a list of 1,000 parts that a Precision or a Granger has to keep on hand. I'm the person that made sure that when they needed the part, it was there and they got good customer service from us and all that kind of stuff. Because they sign contracts for those types of services. So I managed all that.
Yes. Yeah. So KJ, you called her while she was in Target. Um,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
was the motivation for calling?
I'm a Remsen, Iowa native, and I went to Briar Cliff to basically play volleyball and change my major 22 times. Before I decided I was a junior before I decided I really liked the photography thing. And of course, I don't have photography as a major, so I got a new media degree with a business minor, um, which was great in photography. And I did photography by KJ for 18 years. I think I had 3 different studios and each one was better than the last. It was awesome. But I found myself getting a little mm, everything was the same. Everybody wanted different, but it always ended up the same. And I just wanted something else, I think. And we owned a commercial property. We owned both of our studios and loved that. On my first studio that we owned, we leased out one portion of it. And so that made my wheels turn a little bit like, oh, this is kind of cool. Okay. And then COVID hit, and I just decided if I was ever going to do it, either this was it for me, like I was sticking with photography and that was going to be a forever thing, or if I was ever going to try anything else, now was the time. And so I knew that I really liked real estate and um Jen was my first phone call, like, how do you like it? And really not really knowing Jen, she was a client, but not really knowing her. I just wanted to know how real estate worked for her and her family. Um and so the rest is kind of history as far as teaming up. There was an opportunity there. There was many, many, many tears my first year, way too many for Jennifer. I know that much. Uh, she is not the teary, touchy-feely type, and I am like, "Ah." But as she said, it's a hard industry to break into when it's, the first year, second year, it's tough. And I remember thinking to myself, why am I not selling residential? Like I could have sold however many houses I thought I could sold by then, but um Jen just kept saying, "Stick with me, stick with me. I promise you, you won't regret this."
Hmm.
Um, and by this, I meant only specializing in commercial. There's no other license. You don't need a different license to sell residential from commercial, right? Um, I think there probably should be, if I'm being honest, because there's a lot of different things between the two of them. But where my head was I have to help provide for my family, and how am I doing that if I'm not getting paid? This is wild. And she was just like, "Yep, stick with me. I promise you, stick with me." And I'm glad I did. There's no way I could coach volleyball and take my daughter on, all the things on the weekends. A large portion of residential is nights and weekends, and that would have never worked for my family either. So yeah.
Yeah. What is, you mentioned male dominated and it's a hard industry to get into. Like, what do you feel like is, driving that a little bit? And, we don't have to get too far in the weeds, but just curious why maybe commercial is, I guess, yeah, there's not more females in the commercial real estate industry. What is your feeling in your gut?
I think primarily, and I really don't like to focus on male versus female, but I think primarily what I see is because home buying is such an emotional process and it really is typically driven by the wife or the female of the relationship, that they are more comfortable working with another female and another female can understand a lot of those things. Whereas in the commercial world, it really is, does the building check the boxes that the business needs? And it's just a different mindset. Now, I know there are women out there with that mindset. I just
Yeah.
don't know that they realize, like I didn't realize, you could specialize in commercial. So that's why, primarily why I think that it is more men driven, but we're not seeing that any so much anymore. I mean, we've got some great women colleagues in the market, Erin Rooney, Madison Craighead, and we work with Omaha and Sioux Falls female brokers. So I think that is switching a little bit, and I think our market is getting to the size that it realizes you do need to specialize. So that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think part of it is just like the education of like, everybody probably, and this is just in my head, like everybody thinks, Oh, I know there's realtors that sell residential, right? Because you pretty much always know somebody at least that owns a home if you don't own it yourself, and they probably used a realtor to buy it, right? But I guess, there's probably a lot less people that we know that own commercial real estate that use a real estate agent, right? So it's like, yeah, maybe it's education probably needs to happen at a higher level of like the opportunity that's there too. Because
Well, it's like everything in
yeah,
life. You don't know about it until you need to know about it, right?
yeah,
Yeah, commercial
yeah,
almost like you don't know what you don't know until you're asked about it from a client. You're like, I'm gonna have to find that out.
yeah,
Which is why, Jen was very adamant that we're both CCIM certified, which is all commercial. It has nothing to do with residential. Um, and that's not a common thing in Sioux City to find a CCIM certified agent. So that's a pretty big deal for us.
yeah. Yeah, and you talked a little bit about the Omaha and Sioux Falls market. You guys focus most of your time and your attention in Sioux City?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
are
yeah.
are you more do you do and maybe it's a differentiation too, kind of like the commercial and real estate, but buy and sell or lease or like where do you guys, most of your business lie?
Oh,
All of it.
right.
All of it. Um, Jen always says we're a smaller tertiary market. So we don't specialize in hospitality or industrial. We get to do it all. So anything
Mhm.
commercial we get to touch.
But when
So
you
do
get
you
into them, go ahead.
yeah, I was just curious like when it comes to like leasing, because that's one thing that I've never done a commercial lease. I've never, you know, on either side of it really. I mean, I guess I have, but it was just between me and the owner and, it was
Right.
kind of like a handshake deal. It wasn't like a real commercial lease, right? When he said something about triple net, I said, I'm not doing that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll do this. And he's like, okay, that's fine. So yeah, like I just curious, like when it comes to commercial leasing, like what is that percentage of like the week that you go through and does it typically come from, hey, we sold this property to John and now John wants to lease it. So now we're going to do the commercial leasing side of it. And yeah, I just love to be educated a little bit on how that whole thing flows and one, how you get the business, but then, how you find customers for that and how financially that impacts, I'm assuming you get some type of commission off of commercial leasing, but honestly, I don't know anything about it. So I'm just curious personally.
Right. So we have a saying up here at Century 21, those that control the listings control the market. So your ultimate goal is to have a large number of listings because that does drive business, not only because you have your signs everywhere around Siouxland so people see your name, but also because if you have the listing and you do a good job of keeping that client happy, you're more than likely going to lease or sell that listing. And we do both. We sell and lease. We are not a big enough market to specialize, but when you get into the Omaha and Sioux Falls markets, you will have buyer leasing agents only, buyer selling agents only. You'll have agents that specialize in industry, which is great for those markets. We just don't have that we don't have that kind of inventory. So when you first join real estate, your goal is to be basically a buyer's agent or do floor calls and things like that because that is where you get the majority of your business. But your hope is to get to a point where you are dominating the listing market and then getting repeat clients and word of mouth. And I think that we're finally there. But from the word of mouth perspective, and getting a good reputation, we're not able to keep everybody happy. That's just the way it works, but a good reputation in the market. And so I would say half and half of our business is leases
Yeah.
and selling. And leases are honestly more complicated. They're more complicated, and depending on the lease itself, they're usually less money than a sale, both in the amount of the transaction and the amount that we're compensated. So we do recommend that people, when they're going to lease, you have a lot more risk in a lease as a tenant and a landlord, quite honestly. And that's usually the area that people think they can do themselves,
Yeah.
like you did
Yeah.
with the handshake. And that can happen and that works between two people. But we've also seen a lot of things go sideways that we watch out for our clients and make sure that they don't, run into the same issues and errors we've seen in other transactions.
Yeah. I mean, a lease is like a long-term relationship, right? A buy or a sell is like, hey, I'm not going to have to deal with this person after we sign this document, which, like I would say even then, like there's things that I put up with in a purchase where if it was a lease and I was like, I got to deal with this person for longer than just the next 10 days, I'd have been like, yeah, we're not, yeah, we're going to do a little more structure here. Yeah. And so I definitely can understand the fact that leases would be tougher. 100%. How does, like if I'm going to sign a lease and I want to use a real estate agent, what is it like a 3% commission like I'm used to in like a real residential transaction, or how is that structured in a typical commercial lease? If you're going to say like just on average this is kind of what our structure looks like.
Yeah, everybody's got their own professional service fee, but if we shared that, that would be like we're price fixing across the market. So,
Yeah.
and we can't do that. So, we do have our own professional service fee. So, if a client were to reach out, obviously we're sharing that. But to put that
Yeah.
out is, yeah, we can't really do that part of it.
Yep.
But,
S-
um,
So a tenant will
so
contact us.
yeah,
A tenant will contact us, and then you go ahead, KJ.
Yeah, I mean, we talk them through it's buyer's agency is a new thing. It is not required in commercial properties in the state of Iowa. It is in residential. But Jennifer and I have made that a business practice. Buyer's agency really is making everything super clear for the client and the agent. So there's no gray area. Everybody understands who's hiring who's paying who, what if this scenario, what if that scenario. There's no other questions. And I really want everything in writing, agents.
Mhm.
I don't like doing verbal offers. I think things get really messy really quick. And so I want everything laid out there. And Jen always says maybe I'm an oversharer, which is true in all aspects of my life, probably. Um, but I just want everything to be put out there. I don't want there to be any questions. I want you to know exactly what you're stepping into, which can sometimes be overwhelming to people for sure. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so then a
So
tenant would sign buyer agency with us, and then we would go through and show them the properties that they're interested in, and in there would be the fee. As you remember, it used to be when you listed a property on the listing document, it would say what the service fee was, and then it would say that the listing broker would cooperate and share at least up to 50% of that service fee with a buyer's agent. Now, because of these new regulations, and it really is to protect the public, those things are separated out now. So it'll say the seller is offering X number to listing agent and the seller, and then the buyer, and then the seller is then offering X amount to buyer agent, and that seller can choose to offer buyer agent compensation or choose not to. And then alternatively, the buyer that comes forward or the tenant that comes forward can ask the seller or the landlord to compensate their agent. And that is negotiable up until a deal is signed.
yeah. And so that's the residential and the commercial side, and the way that operates is is similar right now, even though the laws are different, you would say?
The
Yes.
only law that's different is that on the residential side, before you even go see a house, you have to sign buyer agency with an agent. That's the
Yeah.
only thing that's different. And a lot of people get scared about that. And I can understand that because I liken real estate to dating. Like, I just met you. I don't know that I want to be with you forever through this whole
Yeah.
sale. But so that's why KJ and I, um, depending on the buyer, try to understand that and make it property specific for a certain period of time because we understand that they're just meeting us. They're wanting to look at the property. And at the end of the day, especially if it's our listing, we want to do the best for our client, and that is to show the property, right? And, KJ and I talk about it all the time. We don't care what a buyer agent sells it as long as our listings get sold because it all comes around in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. That law, surprised me, and like I would say annoyed me, because I was like, damn, I got to sign some more stuff. Like, I don't just, show it to me. I'm going to sign it. You know, and like, how long are those good for? This is another personal question. Like, if I sign a buyer's agent, is that just for like one purchase? Or can I just be like, hey, I don't ever want to sign that again because I'm lazy. I just want you to be my agent for the rest of my life. Like, how do they
So
work?
Y-
because we are entrepreneurs, we can, I mean, with respect to our broker, because our broker does have some rules, we can we can decide how we want to manage our own business that way. And we have clients that do just that, sign it for a year.
Yeah, you can't sign buyer's agency for more than 12 months. There's
Okay.
so typically if we're doing something and and I've showed you a property, our BA would look a little bit like 3 months. And
Hmm.
then that 3 months, you decide, you know what, KJ, I enjoyed working with you. I also want to go see this property. We're going to add that property to the buyer's agency agreement, and we're going to sign an extension for it. But it's all, I mean, everybody signs, everybody's aware. So when you said you were annoyed, like I understand it and can put
Just
myself
high
in your,
maintenance.
but you need an agent who is willing to sit down and take some time and explain why that's protecting you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think I think finding that right agent for yourself is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I just came from the perspective of like, you know, I've bought enough properties where I'm like, I know I'm going to pay you a commission. I want to pay you a commission because I want you to be motivated and work for me, right? Like, I would pay you a commission regardless, you know. And I've even said that, like, even if it's off market and you send it to me, I'll give you a commission on it because, like, I just value the work that realtors do, and I want them to be paid and to be like, man, I want to bring him as many deals as I can because he always gets the job done, you know. So I like selling
Yeah.
properties, to him. Um, so yeah, that's where I come at it. And I was like, absolutely, like, I'll sign it. I just didn't, the first time I seen it, I was like, I didn't realize this was a law. I just thought we all, were in agreement that they should get paid. And apparently not everybody was, or people felt like they didn't know what the agreement was, apparently, right?
I think there was just confusion in the market as to who pays who. And, but you, even before this buyer agency document went into play, you were signing buyer agency when you made an offer, because that's always been required.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
it's just it's just at the point of going to see a property is now where that transaction has moved up.
Nice. Yeah. That's where I signed it. I signed it before I walked through the door. I was like, huh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Because we as agents need to know what you want us to do too, because by signing that document, you allow us to share with you the information we know about the property. If you don't sign that document and it's our listing especially, we are basically door openers. That's what we are, because we're not an agent in the true sense of you hiring us and providing
Yep.
advice on your behalf.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you guys are building your business, what is like your number one, hey, this is how we're connecting with people. This is how we're getting, ingrained into the commercial real estate world and building the connections that help us get listings.
This is always a hard one for me because family comes first. And anything after 4 is really, really tough for me. But a lot of networking things happen after 4. So, but when you're coaching and you're driving kids here, there, and everywhere, and sometimes you have a husband that works night shift, and I am just it's hard for me to be available after 4 o'clock. So that's always been one thing in my kind of long term, is that when the kids are out and they can drive, maybe mom can do more things network wise later. But that's, I also want to give credit to the things that I am doing is, I am coaching children who have parents who are business owners and, things like that. We're both very involved in I was involved in Lila Mays. Jennifer does big portion of healing stuff. I know. So, um, So the groups that we do get involved in, the ambassadors, we're making those connections there too. So
Yeah, I think the main thing is just to be top of mind. I think the last study I read in marketing is it used to be that you needed something like 8 to 10 touch points before somebody made a decision. Now that's double, if not triple. So we're really just trying to be top of mind. And real estate's kind of funny because it's a soft sale in the sense that it's not something that everybody needs right now, but you still need to be relevant and for people to think about you when they think about real estate. So I do feel like our charity work and our board services and even going out to lunch, just the two of us at a restaurant, is part of all of that. Because if we're seen out and about and we're seen in the know and we're connecting with people, maybe it has nothing to do with real estate. That's just another avenue for people to remember that's what we do when the time comes that they need us.
Yeah. I mean, sellers are hey, I think I'm going to sell it, right? I need to contact somebody, and that's when you're like I need to be the person they think about in that moment. And so it's not, yeah. How much, like, when it comes to marketing, I know you guys do some marketing. What are kind of the avenues that you invest in when it comes to marketing?
You do it. I mean, KJ is our
She's the
KJ
boss
is
on that
really
part, huh?
she knows more about how to actually do the posts and everything than I do. I'm just a smidge older than her there.
um, marketing it's changes so frequently now, and it's hard. It's constantly deciding where to stick your marketing dollars is the hardest part. For us, we need to have a LinkedIn presence for sure. That's where business owners are. So we're growing that piece of it a little bit, and I'm trying to focus over there as opposed to the Facebook and things like that. Just because I know my clientele, I know they're on there. Where
Yeah.
Facebook, I'm not so sure that there, and people who don't own or not interested in owning commercial property are on Facebook, and who knows if that's the clientele that I'm reaching, they're not really my clients. So
And we can never discount just for sale signs. That is really honestly the number one way we market is having the listings in the marketplace and people seeing our names with the listing. So that helps too. But we really, a lot of times there's a lot of focus on the listings and making sure those get out there, not necessarily our names.
Yeah.
correct.
So, KJ is doing a really good job putting boosted dollars behind the new listings that we have. Um, she did a great job compiling a new 12-month marketing strategy for us. And that's something that will always evolve because we're already seeing things that are working in that and things that aren't working in that and things that our sellers like that, and other things that aren't necessarily their favorites or just aren't garnishing the results. But at the end of the day, we really measure our true success on the number of eyeballs on a listing. Um, because commercial takes so long and people maybe aren't necessarily looking for something in, something like that at this moment. Um, we could be doing everything correctly and the right buyer just isn't out there for that type of property right now.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, I don't want sellers to think that that is just lip service that we're giving them, but it's true because we have the statistics to prove it in our past successes where, like I said, it's taken 2 years to sell a building. And when we did get the building sold, it was sold at the asking price that the seller wanted originally. So some buildings and some properties are so unique and have such a niche buyer market that it really is waiting out the market and making sure that you're there when the right buyer comes to the table.
And part of that too is Crexy is a big part of our platform, I guess. And there are a lot of anybody who is serious in commercial is looking at Crexy. And it's just a really large platform that we pay to be a part of. I mean, that's
Mm.
a large portion of our marketing dollars go to that platform. So that we can market our listings there and get in front of anybody who is seriously looking at some commercial property. So
Because when you search for properties, you don't type in KJ Winger and Jennifer Rose Bass listings in Sioux City. You type in space for lease downtown with parking, you know, and so that's where we want to make sure that our listings come up. So that's why we really focus on Crexy and things like that, which aren't necessarily about our names. They're about the listings that we have.
Right.
So I always use LoopNet. Like, what's the difference, and does it feed to that, or like, am I missing out on some listings because Crexy is like the dominant force in that industry?
So LoopNet used to be the big dinosaur, right? That's where everybody was. And there are still a lot of listings on LoopNet, and we still advertise our listings on LoopNet. What we found for our sellers and our listing clients is LoopNet is really very expensive. Depending on what plan you have, it can be upwards of $40 to $60 a listing per month. And you do get a lot of eyeballs on that listing, but we as listing agents don't get to see who those people are. We just see that someone in Houston, Texas looked at your listing. Crexy heard the rumblings and the complaints of the commercial agents at all these seminars that we go to, and they discovered a need to make sure that you are able to drill down to the person looking at the property. So that's what Crexy does for us. So Crexy tells us that KJ Winger in Sioux City, Iowa, at this address with this email address and phone number was looking at your property. So we can do a much better job of reaching out to those people that are seeing your property and nurturing them and following up on them. And because we are a tertiary market, I feel more strongly about that. I don't know if I would be able to say the same thing in like Sioux Falls or in Omaha, but I was on LoopNet for years before KJ joined me and had one transaction come through LoopNet. Crexy, we've had much more meaningful contacts with potential buyers.
Mm. Yeah, it's
And they both
interesting. I'm
they're
Go
not.
ahead.
I mean, both of them charge a fee. So, I just feel like the information that we're giving as a listing agent is is direct. It's
Yeah,
I'm getting direct access to that buyer for my seller on
yeah,
behalf of my seller. I can reach out and say, "Are you serious? Do you have any questions? How can we help you? What are your thoughts, concerns about this property?"
yeah. Lets you nurture the process, and yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I've
But
noticed
the
that on. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the thing for you as a potential buyer that might be of concern is you can go onto LoopNet without logging in and look at all of their listings. Crexy, you do have to log in and you do have to have an account. So that is where they're able to do that dive down to the personal information. And if you are a broker worth anything, you are looking at both of those sites for your clients as we do. So
Yeah,
they both still have a place in our business. It's just we've chosen to direct more dollars to Crexy.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense, and I've actually noticed that residential agents are now requiring you to enter a lot of information before you can see like listings, and again, annoyed. But I get it, right? They want to know, and they want to nurture, and they want to be able to, yeah, help close the deal, which 100% makes sense. I mean, I'm the same in my business, right? Like, we want to know, who hit our website, how many people, where they're coming from, if what we're doing is working, and or if people are, because I mean, like, I don't know if you guys check like website data, but like, I get people from all around the world looking at my website, and I'm like, I can only sell insurance in Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and if you live in one of those, I can insure your secondary home in Arizona. But it's like, I don't need anybody from the UK, shopping on my website. And but there is a lot of people around the world that end up on my website for some unknown reason, and it blows
Well,
me away and cracks me
they're
up.
data mining probably,
Yeah.
right? Data mining and doing all that for
Probably
you.
stealing my identity. Yeah, I don't
I
know, but
guess,
it blows me away.
yeah. For me, it's like I think of it like personally. You have a plumber you like, you have an electrician you like, you have an HVAC guy you call or gal. I shouldn't always say guy, right? I feel like real estate. I feel like real estate should be also one of those things in your Rolodex of people because at some point in your life you're going to touch real estate some way or another. And so that's how I try to explain it to people, because I'm always like, well, you, especially a lady, you have a hair gal, you have a nail gal, you have a cleaning lady that you like, you have a place that you go to for this. We want to be in that service Rolodex for your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I believe in that. Like that's kind of how I like to operate, and yeah, I think that's the truth and important. All right, I'm gonna ask you both a couple questions, and then I'll get you out of here and wrap it up. So the first one is, what is something that you each do, in your daily lives that you're like, okay, this is a habit, or something that I do daily that's important to my success and has helped me be successful. And it can be like personally, or it can be like something you do in business. I've had people say like, I dial 10 people a day, or I do coffee, every day with somebody new. And I've other people that just say like I get up and I work out.
Interesting. Hmm. Every single day? I don't know if I mean, you have your rituals, when you come in, and are you checking your email, and are you checking on your leads, and then you've got your list of what needs to happen for the day, and what listings you have to touch this week, and then you've got your list of buyers you're working with, and where are we at on all of that. So I don't know that there's one thing that I would do every single day, but that's, for me, that's the beauty of this too, is that I don't have to be married to one plan. So
For me, it's a list. Every night before I go to bed, I look at my calendar. I think of the things that I didn't get done today that I need to get done tomorrow. And that's how I keep on task and driven, and really make sure things don't fall through the cracks. I think in today's world, I'm continually surprised by the number of people that say to us, "Oh my gosh, you called me back,"
Ah, that's
or
the
"Oh, you
truth.
answered your phone." Well, to me, that's a no-brainer. Like, I can't leave a call unanswered. I can't leave a voicemail unresponded to. And our goal, and I think we do a really good job at it, is we are responding back to you within 24 hours, 99.9% of the time.
usually it's even faster than that.
Yeah.
Usually it's like an hour or two tops. I don't especially if somebody's urgent, they're like, "Ooh, I saw this one come on the market. I got to see this, KJ." Like, if I don't answer, who are you calling next? So yeah, we try to be very responsive. So,
Yeah. I would say from like my standpoint, that's probably the importance of a team too, of, like I know that there's insurance agents, out there that they want to respond to you, right? They just haven't built the team to help them be able to do those things, right? Because they're like, hey, I'm focused on this one and I can't respond to you until I take care of this person, right? And I think, for me, that's why a team has been so impactful for our agency, and the realization of like, you know and I think, for my customers, they realize it too at some point. They might not love it at first because they're like, well, I always talked to my agent before. And I'm like, well, we're all your agent. You just don't want to wait for a day to hear from the one person, right? You want somebody that's really good at what they do to have the time to talk to you now, and yeah, so I'm a big believer in team, because it's just hard for one person to be able to, scale and help people at a level that, people expect today too. I think that's the other thing. Like, people expect you to respond, and maybe they always have, but it's like a
yeah.
lot of instant gratification now too, where they're like,
Well, yeah,
hey,
for sure.
I want you to respond back to me right now.
And I think that's the beauty of, you kind of hit on teams there. Jennifer and I are very, uh, in some ways, we're polar opposites, but that's not when you don't put yes men on your team if you really want a well-rounded team, right? So we very much run things by each other. What do you think about this? How are you feeling about this? Nope, don't like it. We're gonna go this route. Why do you not like it? Like, so picking each other's brain on even pricing things. Where are you at with this? What did the comp say? Why do you not like this comp? Why do you like this? All of the things. But if you just surround yourself with yes men, you're never,
You
I
don't
don't think you
grow.
really ever truly grow.
Yeah.
So the importance of us being a little bit like yin and yang was pretty important to me when I started this, I guess. So when I became a teammate with Jen, it was important to me that we were not the exact same person.
All right, question number 2. Do you have a book that you'd recommend to anybody?
No, I don't like to read.
How
I'm just
about a
this.
podcast,
No,
KJ?
reading. I am not one of those. That's fine. I am not a reader, and I I cannot. That's all. Period. End of story. I don't like to read.
I think one of the first few weeks I gave you a book and I highlighted some things and kept asking her, "Have you read that section yet?" Nope, nope. I said, "Okay, well, let's just read these 2 pages. These are the only 2 pages I want you to pay
Yeah,
attention to."
I can't read. I'm a visual. I'm a former photographer. I'm a visual.
Yeah.
So
I read for fun and for pleasure. And for business. I try to do one fun, one grow book because if you just stick with the grow books, you don't have any kind of fun in your life. So I would say my favorite for fun book is Jodi Piccolo's Leaving Time. It's kind of got a twisty ending, and then I still go back to the How to Win Friends and Influence People. I use that book a lot. It really, the tried and true method of true. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, if it's a widget or a product, you are dealing with people. And that's also what's good about our team because not everybody's going to like the way that I talk or do business and vice versa. And so we can tell rather quickly when we meet a client which one of us is going to be maybe the better contact for that client.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
it's not that I'm
Uh,
not in my defense. I would just much rather do an online course or something like that where I'm like plugged in. Like reading, I will be asleep in under 4 minutes if I read a book. So
yeah. Hey, so I read a book that said, like I need to stop reading so many self-help books because you're just not helping yourself because you just keep getting new ideas every time. And I was like, that is 100% me. So it said basically this guy was like, I read one self-help book every 3 months and I try to be purposeful with, what I learn and what I'm implementing. And I was like, that makes sense. So I backed off of that. And I do read fiction simply to go to bed, KJ. Because
okay,
same thing.
there you go.
Fiction, I'm like, I go to bed after 5 pages
Sense.
every time. Yep. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it works good. It works really good. So I'm on the same page with that. All right. Last question. If you had a day where you were like, okay, I don't have to have my cell phone today, or it fell in the water and you can't, what would you do if you were just like doing whatever you wanted? You had no responsibilities in the entire day.
No responsibilities.
Yeah.
I
A cocktail also would be nice there. Um, that's what I would do. And even if there weren't responsibilities, I'd still want my family around.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Yep.
my
Anything,
first
KJ?
well, my first thought was I got to clean my house, but that's a responsibility. So I really enjoy golfing. I am not a good golfer, but it is a total escape from responsibility. So
Nice.
golfing would be my
Nice.
go-to.
Love that. Well, thank you. Where can we find you? LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram? Like what's your handle? And we'll tag you in this stuff. And where can we find you if we need you?
On Facebook, it's Jennifer Rose Bass, CCIM, KJ Wingert. So pretty long on Facebook. On Instagram, it is your C21 commercial team. And then I think on LinkedIn, it is KJ Wingert. So
Okay.
Yeah, and then of
Awesome.
course and then Property Pros Group is on all of those. So
yeah.
and we're giving do follow us because we've been doing some fun little giveaways these last few months for gift cards around Siouxland to try to promote our local businesses, and we've gotten kind of creative in our videos we're
Yeah, if you
sharing.
haven't
So
seen our golf video, you got to go check that one out. That was pretty fun.
Okay, I like it. Maybe we'll link that too. Is it is it funny? Am I gonna laugh?
Oh
Is
yeah,
that I'm
yeah,
getting that vibe. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, awesome. We'll check it out. Well, thank you, KJ and Jennifer. I appreciate you taking some time and jumping on here. And yeah, look forward to seeing you at lunch sometime. If you guys
You
it sounds
bet.
like you guys like to do lunch, right?
All the things, all the
Okay.
things.
I
All
always
right.
say we're gonna bring back the martini lunch.
Ooh, I'm in. We always end up at Milwaukee Wiener House. That's like what my office likes. So if you're at Milwaukee
Yep.
Wiener House, you'll probably see somebody from MIG. That's like our go-to. And I don't know if we should
I
be
was just
telling
at
everybody
Soho
that, but
yesterday. I like in proximity. I like Soho. Marto's great. Like all the things. So
yeah. Yeah, we're just a hot dog office, I guess. All right. See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you,
thanks, Jacob. Take care.